And just like that, there goes Pride Month. This is what we watched this month. So the first thing I'll be talking about is The Boys Season 5. Been a lot of TV shows recently that have kind of been suffering from the kind of shitty final season, and yeah, this series is not exempt from that. Oh god. So as far as what I liked, I mean, for one thing, they committed to an ending, and they committed to it with the core characters. There was a little bit with how they how they treated Soldier Boy and
Soldier Boy?
Soldier Boy, I'm in it. Why me crack it? Why me roll?
My sibling made the same joke. You're not original. They were soft launching like their there were a few times when they felt like they were trying to advertise their next series. It was kind of just a meandering, not very entertaining season to me. Performances are solid. There are a handful of moments that stick out, notably between the Legend and Homelander, but ultimately just kind of falls because of the really bad jokes, really weirdly timed exposition dumps about characters, and not enough time spent on the right things, and not following up on plot points that you'd expect to be followed up on following season 4. I guess a 4 out of 10.
Then we watched Boys Don't Cry. This was a movie that neither of us had ever seen before, but it's been on my list for quite a while. I've heard kind of mixed things about it, but it did sound at least interesting to check out. I can't say I regretted watching it. It tells a very dark and sad story. You can really sympathize with his character. Hilary Swank is amazing. I love the music. It is about a real person who was murdered. That is kind of what I've seen a lot of, I guess, critiques about, is that it's not a very positive portrayal of trans people. But I think it is also a very necessary story that needs to be told as well, about how trans people are seen, especially in places like rural Nebraska. And I mean, I liked it a lot. It's not something I would ever really plan on watching ever again.
Yeah, it's like this movie, there's kind of a few ways to look at it. Like, I think the first part, it feels a lot like a hangout movie, just really strong character dynamics. It has just a really good vibe for the first part, and then we get into a lot of problematic elements, particularly with one very probably overly extended and probably only that long due to shock value sexual assault scene. There are a lot of inaccuracies with this being about a real person. Notable elements being the exclusion of one Philip Divine, inaccurate inclusion of Lana at the time of the Humboldt murder, alongside other falsified elements of her relationship with Tina in the story at large. The casting of a cisgender woman as a transgender man, even though Swank did do a good job in the role, while this did come at a time where trans-masculine stories were anything but common, it's important to keep in mind what that kind of casting does for representation. It makes me think about the recent casting for Eleven Last of Us Season 3. It's not good for representation. In hindsight, even though I don't blame this movie a whole lot for it, it did set a bad precedent to not cast transgender people as transgender characters. For me, after kind of doing my own research on it after watching it, it went from a 6 to a 5.
I would just give it a 6 out of 10.
Then next, I saw Remarkably Bright Creatures. I never read the book, not too impressed, to be honest. Sally Field, very, very good. I also think her dynamic with Lewis Pullman, while I think it could have been a little better executed, I don't think it's not that I don't think it doesn't work. It's just they do something at the end with the ending twist, which I won't spoil, which I do kind of wish they didn't pull. I wish it didn't feel like such a rug pull. And then my other major issue is Alfred Molina, not in his performance, but because the octopus character in this, because yes, there is a talking fucking octopus in this. He feels kind of disconnected, kind of just like an observer, and yeah, that makes sense. It is kind of one of those stories where you have like the taking a step back and looking at humanity as a whole, hence the title. I just kind of didn't care too much for it, I guess. Long story short, if I had a nickel for every time Alfred Molina played some octopus-related character, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't all that much, but it's weird that happened twice. 4 out of 10.
Then we watched Cloverfield. This was, for both of us, a rewatch. It's still good. A lot of it does hold up. The first 15 minutes, horrendous. The party scene, genuinely awful. But then once the main thing happens, then it does start to get better, and it's less about the dialogue, even though the dialogue afterward is still not great. There's so much like choreography that had to go into this with certain shots that just look amazing and hold up really well. I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say about Cloverfield. It's great. Maybe 5-6 years ago, I might have said this was my favorite found footage movie, but that has changed a lot. But I would still happily rewatch this again multiple times.
I haven't really seen a found footage movie since my first viewing of this that has really been better than it to me. That being said, there have been found footage movies so far more consistent. What is good about this movie is still good. It takes a very like well-worn concept, the kaiju movie, and it brings it to ground level, brings it to your perspective. Even after like what, almost 20 years, it's still effective. It all builds to this feeling that like you're really there. And even though TJ Miller is the one behind the camera, and yes, that aged really terribly, I think it still works. And thankfully, his character dies horribly. But yeah, I still love it, even after all this time, and I'm definitely going to rewatch it someday. It's an 8 out of 10 from me.
I give it a 7 out of 10. Then we watched Wreck, and I feel crazy. Every review I've seen praises this movie, and I think the movie is kind of bad. This is not the first time that I've seen this. I didn't even like it the first time, and I found a lot more wrong with it the second time. And it also just became a lot more annoying with the characters. The whole stop recording bit gets really old. There are non-diegetic sounds throughout the movie, even though it is a found footage movie. All the people in this building are fucking stupid. I said in my review, it is statistically impossible for this many stupid people to end up in this building together. And then the fucking daughter, who the mother keeps saying only has tonsillitis, even though very obviously it's going to turn into one of the creature things. I don't get it. It's definitely better than the American remake, I can at least say that. But Wreck is still bad.
On a rewatch, there's a lot of problems that I also noticed too. I never really picked up on the non-diegetic sounds. I don't know why. I think it was just because I wasn't wearing headphones when I first saw it. I was watching on my TV in my basement. Character decisions, like he mentioned, I don't want to be redundant. They are questionable. And with the daughter, it is also quite predictable. If you've seen a lot of zombie movies, you can kind of guess that they're going to turn eventually themselves. But I still do like that it's a found footage movie and kind of like this bottle narrative. That one sequence at the end is my favorite by far. I mean, I still really enjoy like Manuela Velasco's performance as Angela Vidal, and I think the DP being the actual camera guy in this was a nice touch, but it is rougher on the edges than I remembered. Kind of want to give it a 6 out of 10 just because I still have a fondness for it.
I am giving it a 4 out of 10.
Then I was invited to go watch Masters of the Universe. Yes, the new He-Man movie.
By the power of Grayskull!
What I like about this movie is that it feels like it's made by fans of the cartoon. I like the set design. I think it's well cast, aside from Jared Leto, who, let's be real, did not have to really act for much to be a villain. But ultimately, the writing is just kind of a little, some of the backgrounds look really underdeveloped. I also think some of the character work needed more time. I don't think any performances were really bad, I guess. Another element of this movie that I really picked up on was it kind of was like right-wing Lord of the Rings. By that, I mean, it has like all the stereotypical, like, oh, like, be a man is like being strong and shit, and He-Man's father, or Prince Adam's father, rides those toxic masculine traits pretty heavily early on, and then he gets kind of redeemed, which I don't think is earned. But then there's also the added element of all the gay undertones. There's a lot of them.
Hell yeah.
Like, there's a guy named Ram Man, and they say verbatim, you ram people. And there's this other guy named Fisto, who they also say verbatim, fist people. Jesus fuck, please recast Jared Leto. Do not give that man work anymore. Please stop. Yeah, that's all. 4 out of 10. Then I saw The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. This has actually been one I've been wanting to see for kind of a while. It's very meta. I think from the trailers you can definitely tell Nicolas Cage is an actor both in this movie as he is in real life. If you're one of those people that saw the trailers way back in 2022 and it was coming out and never got a chance to see it, go see it. It's a pretty good time. I give it a really nice 6 out of 10.
Then I saw Amores Perros, also known as Love's a Bitch. This was the directorial debut of Alejandro Iñárritu, director of Birdman and The Revenant. I really liked it a lot. I hate to say this in vain, but it's kind of a Spanish pulp fiction. It's about this car accident that happens, and it's there's like 3 chapters about these 3 different people who are involved in the accidents. The first chapter is about this group of teenagers who are involved in dogfighting. I really like those scenes a lot because I didn't know it until after I watched it, but the way they showed dogfighting looks very real and very visceral, to the point where I was a little kind of uncomfortable with it. What they did to make it look real is that they just recorded footage of them playing together, and then just sped it up, and then chopped it around to make it look like they were actually fighting each other. And I thought the story of that was super interesting, where it's kind of like a cliche. Like, you're trying to win money. They're involved with like this mafia, or, well, it's in Mexico, so it could be the cartel for all I remember. The second chapter is, I would say, the worst chapter. And then the third act is probably the best of the movie, where it's about this, I think he's a homeless guy. He looks like a homeless guy, but they didn't really spell it out. Basically a homeless guy that collects a bunch of dogs, contacted to do, quote-unquote, a one last hitman job. And this is where I started to kind of notice the Tarantino-isms. I liked it a lot. I really, really liked it. And the more I thought about it after watching it, it could be a movie that if I saw it a second time, could be a lot higher. For right now, though, I am giving it a 8 out of 10. Then we watched A Woman Under the Influence. This was a first watch for both of us, and it was the first film that we've seen of John Cassavetes, a director I've been wanting to get into for a while. It's good. It's solid. I will say my main criticism is that it is way too fucking long. There's a great hour and 45-minute movie in here, and this movie is over 2.5 hours. It's long.
Yeah, it is.
Gina Rowland's character, Gina Rowland carries the whole movie. She's fantastic. She's fucking amazing. It's a good story about like mental health and how women go through mental health. There is a really, really great scene, which is the scene where they get her committed, basically. It's a great 20-minute scene of them like arguing. That is the best scene of the movie. I mean, yeah, it's good. I can't picture myself ever wanting to watch it again. It is really great, and I would love to get more into Cassavetes films sometime.
I also have thought a lot about how certain scenes being paced kind of slower kind of really makes you sit with. Love how it doesn't outright say what it is. They don't ever specify it. And I love that there's this layer of ambiguity in the representation. Their dynamic for the whole thing is always interesting. There's always something like boiling beneath the surface. And he walks into every room kind of at least a little bit ready for something weird to happen. There are a lot of really weird cuts. There's some weird soundtrack choices. There's a very problematic scene early on. And then there's also some missed potential with Troy Mabel's experience in the hospital. When she goes off, like, we just kind of stick with Falk and the kids for a little bit. And while that's not bad, while we do miss her, I think there was an opportunity to kind of make us help the audience feel for her more by seeing her experience in at least a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? Like, maybe you didn't need to go all in on it, but just something.
Couple scenes.
I give it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Then I watched Idiocracy. This is a movie that I have been told about many times for obvious reasons. After the UFC event at the White House, I was like, you know what? I'll give it a watch. And yeah, it's a documentary, but it's also the most 2006 movie I've ever seen. Lots of words that do not hold up in this environment. One of the main punchlines is Fuddruckers. Does anybody remember Fuddruckers? I do, because I'm old, but does anybody remember it? Throughout the movie, there is like a narrator, and that I don't like. It kind of feels weird. But yes, in terms of like what people say is like the documentary part, yeah, it's Terry Crews plays the president, who is a wrestler, and you know we have a president. Well, he was in WWE for a brief time. Yeah, it's a movie that everyone should see. It doesn't. There are parts of it that hold up way too well, and there are parts of it that hold up very badly. I would give it a 6 out of 10.
Then I decided to check out The Notebook because I had this gut feeling that for the next script I want to try and write that I had to see it. My gut was wrong. What I like about it is how the movie gets really recontextualized near the end, because for a lot of it, it kind of just feels like every cliche love story ever, to be honest. I can't say that Gosling and McAdams don't have chemistry, because they clearly do. They won a kissing award for it or something way back in the day.
Hold on, we're just gonna breeze past that. A kissing award?
Best kiss goes to
someone that's cleaning up tonight. That'd be Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling for The Notebook.
Looking back on the romance genre, there's definitely character decisions in like 2000s and 90s, like rom-coms and whatnot, that if they were movies today, people would think they're just fucking crazy, and the female or male love interest would just go away. They just wouldn't engage. There's a dual narrative. There's an older version of Noah, played by James Garner, who's basically telling this story to older Allie to try and gauge her memory. And at first, those were my least favorite scenes, but then it really does build to a really powerful ending. And my favorite scene is near the end when Allie's sundowning happens. It's, as someone who's seen that firsthand, I think it actually was portrayed pretty well. It makes it clear that the past stuff with Gosling McAdams is like a fantasy. It's romantic. It's or overly romanticized. I mean, like, it does help the pill kind of go down knowing that. Because at first I just couldn't really buy their relationship very much, to be honest, outside of their chemistry. Well, maybe a bit movie-esque, a little too movie for me, like with them dying at the same time in the bed. Like, it just feels very Hollywood. Yeah, it's a 5 out of 10.
Then we watched Doctor Strangelove. This is another case where I think I'm kind of crazy. Very well praised movie. I mean, it's Kubrick. There are good shots, and a lot of the movie is kind of just the two scenes back and forth the whole movie. Very repetitive, despite the fact that it is a 90-minute movie. It can kind of feel like it's 2 hours. So this is based on a book called Red Alert. And in 1964, there were 2 movies that were based off that book that came out that year. This and a movie called Failsafe, directed by Sidney Lumet. Failsafe I saw a long time ago with my grandma. She told me how when she saw that movie, it scared her. And when I saw it, I definitely see why. Spoiler alert, everybody dies at the end. Oh, and it's also just, it's a serious drama about trying to defuse a potential nuclear war. It's super interesting, and there's a lot of really great scenes. And the ending is something, even though I haven't seen the movie in over 6 years, I still remember the last shot of the movie. It's great. It's definitely worth watching. It's like a weird black comedy, but it's not funny. To be honest, none of the characters really...
I saw this movie back in middle school, and for some reason my brain made false memories of he and I having the same social studies class that year, but we didn't.
No.
So I saw this movie back then, and he didn't. And yeah, on a rewatch, like I remember for the first time when I saw it, I was in the midst of like tons of lectures on history, so it was a little more relevant. And I think I was able to kind of dig into it a little bit more. But still knowing the history, not having forgot it, and just viewing this more as a movie, yeah, this ain't that great. No, I don't remember ever loving it, but man, if I ever did, I was crazy. It gets so repetitive, and they really only could use so many shots of that plane, and they really should not have.
Oh my god, Kubrick really wanted to show his model airplane collection for this movie. There are some really bad ones towards the end where it's like flying way too close to the ground. Where to the point where it's like they should be dead. It does like the rear screen projection like they did for like the early James Bond movies.
I don't want to harp too much on it because the plane set actually is really good. I give all the respect there for that. And also the war room looks very good. It's shot very well.
The lighting in that room is great.
I don't remember much from it, but if I was a fan of it, I would have had my opinion vastly change on this rewatch. It is a 4 out of 10 from me as well.
4 out of 10.
And then I went to go see the new Supergirl movie. This is the first DCU movie, at least, that is directly adapting a graphic novel. And I love that comic a lot. And there are some changes here which I can get why they may have done them, but there's a lot that I just, as a fan of it, it leaves a lot to be desired. But as its own movie, I still think it's okay. So my main complaints, though, regards the pacing, color grading in parts of the second, but mainly the third act, and things they changed and or omitted from the graphic novel. Really disappointed not to see Comet, the horse, like the astral horse here. So, Millie Alcock playing Supergirl. I like her quite a lot. I think she's perfectly cast. There's this really cool note about her character that she's kind but not nice. In the trailers, there's this line where Clark, her cousin Superman, sees the good in everybody, but she sees the truth. So Supergirl here is strong. However, Ruthia, played by Eve Ridley, I love her. I love the actress they picked for it. When she felt like Ruthia from the comic, I loved it. However, she really feels underdeveloped here because compared to the graphic novel, Ruthia was the main character there, while Kara is the main character here. But yeah, their dynamic was kind of... I did care about them, however, the comic had more time to build them up, like their relationship. In this movie, it was kind of rushed a little more. Their adventure, while has a lot of fun moments, just... I wish I felt for it more than I do. to be quite honest. And with that too, there's a lot of great world building here for the DCU. Like, there's a lot of cool new planets, which I actually do think look pretty good, except for the last one. Lobo's introduced here, played by Jason Momoa. He should have been playing him since the previous continuity, in my opinion. You'll either find, I think they work in the sense that with this script being written by a woman, they do hone in on like women's issues. Particularly the fact that the brigands kidnap women. Everything else about them, I'm just not really sure how I feel, I guess. Like, I just only think about it more. It's still too recent. Way better than the one back in the day. And I'm excited to see this character again in the future. But this movie, like Superman, kind of goes for the pacing of comic books. I worry, like, it might not be a long-lasting formula adapting the comics pacing. Like, Gunn was all about making each of these movies feel distinct, and I do think Supergirl does feel distinct. If they're gonna, like, commit to character studies movies like this, which I think they should make more of them, they gotta slow down. It's a 6 out of 10 for me.
And that is everything we watched for the month of June. Kind of a slower month for me. It's summer. For me, that's my least good time of year. It's where I'm the most depressed. And I've been busy. More videos soon, I promise.